subscribe to James the Sheriff Dixon, you motherfucker.
This is Fun Times with the Sheriff, Season 6, Episode 7. I got my cousins Paul and Brittany on. Say hello, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Brittany.
I'm Paul Garucki.
So, you guys restore and work with classics films. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've been doing this since my first project was directing the Three Stooges biography for A&E back in 1994, I think. And then in about 2004, we decided to reissue the documentary, which did fairly well on home video. And they asked us what our next project was going to be. And I said, I'd like to do a documentary on silent film comedian Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, who was accused of killing a woman. Not true, didn't happen, but...
He was acquitted.
Yes, he was acquitted. And when I started to do the documentary, I found that there were very few of his films that survived. And it made it difficult to be able to do the documentary. So I thought to myself, well, gee, there's got to be more films out there. So I started searching, and then the prints that I found were terrible condition. So I decided to start restoring those films. And that really was the beginning of all of this.
Yeah. At that time, I was a project manager at a production house called Grace and Wild, and I was actually assigned to be his project manager for these projects. So that's how you guys met,
yeah.
That's how I got involved.
Yeah, she was great. She wound up handling all of the outside business stuff of arrangements and set up all of our studio schedules and was our liaison with the studio. And I kind of spirited her away from her job, and we've been working together ever since.
So, with that, how did you guys get into that? What first got you started into wanting to do that?
Oh, geez. I've been a film fanatic since I was a kid. I mean, seriously, I think I was about 4 years old. I grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, and the city park was showing films outside on a 16 millimeter projector. My dad woke me up and had me get dressed in my PJs, grabbed a blanket, a big bag of popcorn, and we went down to the park, and we were watching cartoons and comedies, Bugs Bunny, Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, and I was just fixated by the projector. I mean, that was really my first real experience with seeing how films were shown. And that's something I've been chasing my entire life. I've only really genuinely been interested in working in film and television. Well, I did a little bit of radio too, but this is pretty much my entire life.
And then he's a film historian. I am not. I just work in the industry. But my exposure to it really came from my father, who was a big Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, Marx Brothers, and our grandfather too. Growing up, he used to show all those classic comedians to me too. So I always had an interest in it from a young age. So when we met, I was like, "This is awesome!
Connection.
This is so cool."
I was gonna say, I'm somewhat like you guys, not preserving. Since I was a kid, I've always wanted to do filmmaking. Now I'm going to school for it.
You have ever since I met you. You have been hardcore into film. I mean, you don't just watch the films, you study the films. You really character development, all of that kind of stuff, which is really cool. I mean, a lot of people just watch television and movies passively, but people like us dig a lot deeper and try and get it how it's made or make them. And it's fun.
And that's a lot of what our work is trying to preserve these films to be as authentic and re-released, through our restorations and reconstructions, to be as they were intended to or were released originally back when they were first.
My question is
for instance,
go ahead. One of my questions is what's one of the bigger ones you've done that you came across doing this?
Wow. I've worked on over 500 restorations at this point. Britt and I together collectively have.
I mean, I think that I'm on at least 300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. You name a classic comedy, we have worked on. Abbott and Costello.
Three Stooges, Roscoe Arbuckle, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chase.
Charlie Chaplin. Actually, in 2010, I discovered a lost Charlie Chaplin film that was not in most of the biographies, and that was crazy. It got world international attention, newspaper headlines everywhere.
It was really funny to see his news interviews dubbed in, Japanese and stuff.
Click language, it's
It went
it's
all
weird.
over.
Yeah, to see it coming back to you in German and Italian and Japanese, it was strange, but really cool. Nice bit of history to be able to. I was very fortunate.
So you guys run something called a Cinema Museum. I have it here.
Yep,
Cinema Museum. Yeah, our first company was Laughsmith Entertainment. That's the one that did the Three Stooges documentary. And our company, which we started in
2011,
is Cinema Museum. And we specialize in classic comedy, although lately we are now moving into doing other feature-length films, other stuff, anything from 1900 until the 1970s, film, television. I just had a bunch of Westerns come across my desk and some dramatic films. And so we're branching out.
We have an archive of films too that we purchased, the
Zuare
collection.
It's the educational film sound comedies from 1928 through 1940 or something. I can't remember the exact dates, but there's hundreds and hundreds of two-reel comedies.
It's a lot of stuff to go through in catalog.
It has taken a while, but we're slowly restoring all of those, and we'll release some on home video, and those will go on television and streaming, and hopefully, like a lot of our stuff is aired on Turner Classic Movies. I think we've got something like 150 films in their library right now, and they air periodically our restorations, things that we've done.
So, what's the process of doing the film restoration stuff?
Travel around the world, and we find the last surviving prints of any given film. Find as many vintage original components. Film back in that day was printed on nitrate stock, very unstable, same chemical composition as gun cotton and gunpowder, and it's very dangerous. It is. It can catch fire. It'll spontaneously combust over 100 and some odd degrees, and you shouldn't smoke around it to be around flames and whatnot. Yeah. So it decomposes over time, and we gather up as many of those as we can find, try and restore the physical print as much as possible, replace sprockets and trim out bad sections, and then it's transferred on a telecine, so it digitizes that physical film element.
Essentially, it takes a picture of each film frame and makes it into a digital image, and then you string them all together to get, a moving picture out of that. So.
Exactly. And then the bulk of the work that we do is digitally. So we'll go through and we'll stabilize the picture, which has jitter and bounce, and we'll go through and clean up all the dirt and the scratches. Color correction, replace any missing footage, get it back. We'll also track down the original scripts and cutting continuities and make sure that the film is complete. Sometimes we have to recreate the original titles and end titles.
Inner titles.
We'll commission original scores for silent films.
That's way more intricate than actual editing like I do.
Oh, yeah.
It's complicated.
And what's funny is that when we first got, we're still working in a linear editing space, which was,
different animal.
So you couldn't jump around as, in a digital realm, and it's much easier. It is so labor intensive. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time.
Yeah, the creation of Avid was just a huge boon to all of this. It just made it so much easier.
Don't you have to store it somewhere in a specific environment?
Yeah, original nitrate film should be stored
temperature
controlled vaults with flame prevention, or with it's a protective environment, and it's usually places like the Library of Congress or UCLA or Museum of Modern Art, George Eastman House. They have people on staff who understand specifically how to handle these films with them every day. And they have the proper facilities for that kind of storage. In some places, it's illegal to ship nitrate film now.
It's actually really difficult for
us. The gunpowder you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Gun cotton. Yeah.
So if we need to ship a nitrate print, which is rare, or if we need to get one in to work on, you have to find someone who works at a UPS or the post office, which is very rare, who's been specially certified to ship nitrate film.
Yeah.
It's like
and there are very few of those at this point, so we wind up having to move and deliver those things ourselves, and it's difficult. The job grows more difficult with each passing year.
I'm sure, especially with COVID and all that now.
Yeah. That did not help.
That was not a good time.
I was gonna say, like, what were some challenges and rewards that you've gone through with dealing with all of that, like starting the museum and what you just all mentioned?
I'm sorry, I missed.
The challenges and rewards.
Oh, the challenges are, like, we restored 100 Mack Sennett comedies for Turner Classic Movies. I think they actually aired 87 of them, and ultimately we wound up restoring 127 or so. The reward is being able to bring back this classic film, these films in the original form that they were intended to be seen, and show them to a modern audience 100 years later. I mean, that's just exciting, you know.
It's like preserving a snapshot of what the world was like at that time.
Yeah, the clothes, the fashions, the comedies. It's exciting to be able to show these to younger people who really relate to these. They appreciate the films, because when they're restored properly, presented properly, they look great. It's easy to watch them, and they hold up alongside anything that's being produced today.
Yeah, but there's always challenges, though, in the production process. I mean, you know, what's it, like Murphy's Law or whatever? If something's going to go wrong, yeah,
it will. And it does.
There's always things that slow up. As you know, our production schedule, you know, you get wrenches that are thrown into things. Technology does things to you.
I grew up with you guys. I've seen the changes of technology with you guys as I grew up. Yeah,
exactly.
Technology is inherently malevolent. It's intelligent and it knows what it's doing. It's just, if something can go wrong, it absolutely.
Especially with AI now.
That's an interesting. People will always say, "Well, what do we need you for now? AI can fix it all," but that's really not how that works. AI is a great tool. We're able to use it, but in very small amounts. The technology just isn't quite there yet for it to be able to do things on its own. You know, you have to teach it and train it. And
you still, like, we would still have to go back and edit the AI's editing, essentially. You know.
Yeah, and you can enhance images using AI, which has been super helpful. Yeah. Say you have a really low quality, non-professional grade film print, because, you know, they used to do them in different formats for home use. There'd be 8mm film, Super 8, 16mm. Those are considered non-professional gauges. And sometimes that's the only place that some material survives. It doesn't exist in 35mm or with the original negatives or camera negatives. And sometimes we're able to use certain elements of AI and some of the things that we've created ourselves to enhance those images and make them look less like the lower grade pictures.
Sure, AI can't do like go in like hand on hand, like, because I know there are film reels that sometimes you have to deal with and slice.
No. Absolutely not. That's a very specialized machine.
How fun
huge.
Would that be?
Yeah, it would be wonderful, because not a lot of people, you know, really have that kind of machinery. It's very highly specialized, so you have to find someone who is like a colorist who can operate it, and then just the machine itself, which is a massive thing. It's like a old school computer when they first came around. That's how big it is. It's just huge. It's not something that you can just, you know, shove in the corner of your living room and, you know, fire up.
Like a piece of furniture in your house.
Right.
It takes a lot of people to do this. It's not just her and I. We have a whole fleet of people, other film historians that we consult to make sure we're getting everything correct.
We have a font expert and a graphic artist.
Graphic artists and other editors and other people who specialize in certain things that we don't necessarily have the time or the ability to do. Like now, previously, before before COVID, we were going into studios and we were using their professional staff to do, I would sit back there as a director and tell them what to do and
watch over them,
coordinate and organize. Now, the technology has advanced to the point where I am able to do the physical restorations myself.
Right. The consumer grade is advanced enough where we're able to do a lot of it from home. We still need to go in and use the more expensive professional studios.
You get $100,000 piece of equipment.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have access to that. But it has given me more hands-on, the ability to do better restorations and more cleanup and repair and get them looking just perfect with for less money in a shorter period of time with less people involved. And it's pretty gratifying creatively, artistically, to be so hands-on.
So I would say, what would the future be for something like this? Like, what would you say to like future people? We talked about it a little bit just now with the AI stuff, looking out for that.
Learn every single thing you can about classic film. A lot of the people who are around in the beginning are gone. The second generation of people are gone. Read as many books as you can and stay on top of every piece of modern technology that you can. You need to have one foot in the past to understand how the films were made, what the original filmmaker's intention was, and the methods that they had at their disposal, and then figure out ways to incorporate the new creations, the new computers and software and things to get those old school effects, because a lot of that machinery, a lot of that stuff doesn't survive anymore. So really, I guess for the future, we need to move faster. A lot of this film is still being lost. It's decomposing. It's sitting in barns and attics and basements, and it's just rotting away because people don't know what to do with it, what it is. So much material has been thrown away and destroyed because people simply didn't know. So it's important. It's important. It's preserving our past, our entertainment heritage. I mean, this is the first. Our entire first 100 years as a society has been documented on celluloid.
Yeah.
It exists. You can see how people lived and what they did. I think it's important for future generations to be able to, more than just read a book, be able to see how people
access
lived.
it. And then more specifically, for our company going forward, we're still working on the restoration work that we've been talking about. We're looking, we definitely want to still stick with physical media because we think it's important to do that because the cloud is great. However,
streaming is lovely.
It is.
But you can't own anything that way.
And we are definitely going to, start to try to look at putting our stuff on streaming channels more, just because that seems to be the way that people want to digest their media these days.
Well, it is easier. It's convenient to be able to just type in something, pull it up. But you'll also find that a lot of companies
going the way I see now too, even.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, a lot of our stuff is available online. You can go and watch the documentary, and you can see the Max Sennett shorts. It's Canopy has them, and Amazon Prime and Tubi has a lot of our stuff. But there are more, and the objective is to reach more people with this vintage material. And the more people that see it, the more those films continue to survive because there's an interest in it. The minute that people stop watching, the films are dead.
We're going to try to build up our YouTube channel too.
Yes. Yeah, we're actually in the process right now of setting up we've had a YouTube channel, but it's just woefully.
Right, it's very sparse with what we offer on it.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to build that up. We need to, get all of our stuff uploaded and start trying to promote it and see if we can get people to engage with that more. So that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I have one
YouTube's a great resource.
I have one more question. We're right at the 20-minute mark. What do you think, like 100 years from now, like 200 years from now, like because we're not really documenting much. What do you think, like somebody wants to go back and like restore something like the Avengers or something like that when it's lost to like?
It's all wetware, man. It's all going to be a chip in your head.
How do you think somebody's going to restore something like that?
It would probably have to be pretty similar to the way that we're doing it now, unless they come up with some other crazy technology, that can, I mean.
The thing that genuinely concerns me is that a lot of this is created digitally now.
Yeah.
You don't have the physical elements that you can go back
because we're slowly going away from DVD, so that's my thing. Like 100 years from now, we might not even have a physical copy anymore.
Well, and stop and look how quick technology changes now. It's every few years. So many systems are obsolete, and storage media is obsolete. It's all constantly changing. So that the movies they're making today in the digital realm, how do you go back and preserve that from old digital files? I guess it will be kind of like excavating that old thing that they were storing it on.
Yeah, like trying to get to like a really old digital camera and like trying to fire it back up and see what you can get off of it.
Yeah, that's really it's kind of a scary thought. I think
and that's hard to get
filmmakers now.
Those old stuff, because I have old phones that.
Well, yeah. It's complicated.
Right.
A lot of filmmakers now are looking at having their digital prints transferred back to celluloid, to actual physical media, so that in future they could go back and there is a physical copy of the film that could be,
restored. Or,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Scary thought. It's a scary.
I just bring it up because I'm one of the few that collect the DVDs. So like maybe in like 50 years, somebody stumbles across my house and it's like they see like old copy of the Avengers. They're like, I want that.
Well, look now. People are actually collecting VHS again. Everyone threw their VHS away when DVD came in, and now I'm seeing they're doing high-end auctions for sealed copies of VHS tapes, popular titles. They're selling for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Heritage auction just did that,
yeah.
Pete Davidson's doing that. I think I've seen on the news.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
He bought like
exciting.
thousands of copies of things, and he's reselling them for $20,000.
Right.
If you are smart enough and foresighted enough to save the stuff, you deserve whatever you can get for it. It's amazing. I mean, that people really did think to save those things because it matters.
So yeah, I think that's it. We covered everything. Is there any like final things you want to say? Anything you want to promote?
If people are interested in classic films, go to our website. It's cinemuseumllc.com, and we update periodically, say what projects we're working on, and there's a little blog feature in there that talks about some of the things that we've discovered, and sometimes we'll link you to other places with interesting things that are going on. And we also publish a digital magazine called Comique Magazine, and you can find that at archive.org.
It's COMIQUE.
QUE. And it also covers a lot of the history of these classic comedians. A lot of fun stuff in there that you wouldn't find anywhere else.
I'll put links below. You guys can send me. All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much
for having us. It's a pleasure. It's been way too long. Sorry it took so long, but glad to be here.
I want to shout out an amazing channel, James the Sheriff Dixon. Oh, he's such a great guy, and he is super cool for coming to the show. I'm glad I got to meet him in person, and you should subscribe.